All right, so let's get started, and happy to see people already joining. So welcome to this week's PTC talk before our summer break, where we are delighted by having Joseph Thompson from aPriori and Paul Hames from PTC for a session on how leading manufacturers achieve measurable impact with aPriori and PTC. But first, a very quick introduction by me. My name is Torbjörn Peterson, and I'm the Alliance Manager for PTC here in the Nordics, leading these weekly webinars where we invite customers and partners for some inspiration on digital transformation to see what is possible and how to make things happen. And we're also running all these webinars on Friday at the same time with topics around either manufacturing, services, or engineering. And all the recordings of the past sessions are to be found on the registration site. And the agenda for today is first a quick overview of PTC by me, and then Joseph and Paul will run the show where they will touch base challenges, how to address these, and then explain some of the business outcomes. At the end, we also have a Q&A session, so please keep your questions to them, or you may also put them in the chat and we will pick them up later on. Next slide, please, Joseph. So just a brief overview of PTC on who we are. And PTC is a global software company with a headquarters in Boston, and we provide market-leading solutions on IoT, augmented reality, PLM, CAD, SLM, and A&M through the digital thread to help companies to accelerate the digital transformation. Now over to you, Joseph. Show is yours.
Thanks, Toby. Those of us that have been in digital engineering for a while know that we often have to have a conversation about trading costs for time. And so which one do you think customers normally prefer? We talked to Sam Friesemeyer, former VP of engineering at AGCO, and he told us I would trade 3 months of time to market over hitting a cost target and being on time any day. But what if you could do both? What would it look like if you had a software provider that could prove it? I'm Joseph Thompson, Field CTO, and that software provider is aPriori. Today, I will talk through some ways that we prove it by highlighting some of our recent customer successes, including a recorded interview of one of our customers. A little bit on my background. I have over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software field, including 17 at PTC and nearly 3 at aPriori. In my role as Field CTO, I meet with senior IT and functional leadership in both pre-sales and post-sales functions to show how aPriori complements and fills into their IT landscape and how to optimize how it fits into a multi-year enterprise plan. I also look after our time to value implementation resources globally. For the next few slides, I will provide an overview on some of the background content from the previous PTC talks. You can go to those previous videos, as Torben said, and find more depth. So aPriori is a cloud software solution provider that helps discrete manufacturers identify and unlock innovation in their products, profitability, manufacturability, and sustainability. At aPriori, we leverage our customers' existing investment in CAD and PLM, making both more valuable. We augment existing processes by providing single-click analysis from CAD and automated process analysis from inside of PLM. This results in MPI target cost reductions as well as supply chain costs for established products. So we really work both sides of the process landscape at our customers. We help with engineering and reducing costs and engineering time, and we help with ongoing costs long term. In summary, we help customers find cash. It's cash that they can use throughout the rest of their operation. Who else can help deliver cash while also enhancing new product offerings? As we look at the market landscape, we identify 4 challenges that might look familiar to my PTC colleagues and should resonate with our customers that are on the line. The first is about tracking inflation and margin pressure. This is about improving profits for both existing products and also planning for strong profits in the future. The second is about mitigating supply chain risks and being sure that our suppliers and in-house manufacturing plants have the manufacturing capacity and capability to confidently make the parts that are being designed or sourced. Third is about knowledge and skills gaps. We hear it all the time from our customers that they have a significant amount of knowledge about to leave their company and their established resources, and the folks coming in don't have nearly the same level of manufacturing capability as folks are designing. They're designing things and not really knowing how it is made. So we can help close that gap. And then finally, sustainability, of course, is an area that is very important as we go forward. Sustainability, while listed alone in a column here, is really about profitability or handling risk as well. So that's something that we see more and more companies trying to tackle as they go forward. Interesting, a few months ago, we worked with PTC to sign Ferrari as a way to meet their sustainability goals, working both with aPriori and Windchill to design insights into the design engineering organization and also support their reporting going forward. So it's a great example of how we can work together in a competitive pursuit to produce value for a customer. These are some pretty big problems for our customers, and we take these as our North Star as we identify solutions for the market. Now I'll discuss conceptually what we do. We start off by leveraging existing CAD. We have ways to plug non-CAD analysis into our software, but our real strength and differentiator starts with CAD. But we don't simply analyze the CAD. We add a model of the customer's digital factory and their digital process to the overall digital thread. So it's really covering the entire digital thread. And then we run the CAD model through a simulation of manufacturing process. By doing this, our customers can balance all their design requirements while also keeping an eye on carbon content, manufacturability risk, and cost. Without aPriori, customers can produce a prototype in a quantity of one, which is very expensive to build one item. And then they can use their experience to determine what that one expensive item might look like in initial production rate and full production rate. And then, so there's a lot of guesswork and a lot of estimating that's being done there. Generally, all this work is done after the CAD has been released. So therefore, if we find any problems with the CAD and the model, we have to go back through a whole nother cycle of ECOs to produce the actual model we're going to produce. And then I need to build another prototype. And you can see very quickly how we could get into a spiral that we just have to kind of call it because this product needs to go to the market and we're going to go forward with the costs we have. What if we could remove all that extra ECO step and go forward confidently coming out of a design review with an estimate for what it would take to go build something? Would it be valuable to eliminate that round of ECOs? What would it do to the overall product lifecycle if you could eliminate all that time from the lifecycle? Would it be valuable to know as early as design what the optimal batch size might be for production runs? So then you can make sure that you have available capacity and capability sized right for the products that you're going to build. Further, at design review time, we can help customers make versus buy decisions, but not just make versus buy, but where to make it, which geography makes the most sense. And if I build out the same view for our suppliers, I could decide where in the supply chain we can make this item. And so you can see that we can get into our network of suppliers pretty quickly, very early on, because I've got these additional insights. I talked a lot about cost for all of that, but in a similar way, we can look at carbon content and manufacturability risk in order to make sure that we've got an optimized design. And we can do all of this from the CAD. Just consider when you're bringing an assembly or product to a decision for release, you can also determine what the top manufacturing sites might be to build this thing, what the best solutions are in the supply chain. Now, all of our customers can make the best decisions early before committing cash and committing resources. So again, we're saving money at the time of decision making. And we're sort of increasing the confidence that customers have as they make these decisions. So this is how we can provide cash and also reduce time inside of our customers. In previous PTC talks, my colleague Dave McDermott related this view to show how aPriori and PTC work together with the key products that we interact with to unlock maximal benefit. You can go back to his PTC talks and hear how he goes through this in detail, but I wanted to just give a quick overview to make sure that that this is covered in case you haven't seen that. So first, like I said before, aPriori augments our existing customer investments in Creo and Windchill. We sit alongside and enable design engineers and program management to make better decisions as they go through the process. Along the way, we also allow key personas to come in and have access to this CAD-based analytics much earlier. So we're really bringing folks from downstream in the supply chain in the overall manufacturing process and pulling them into the left. So often what we talked about when I was involved with Windchill is just making visibility happen. What I can do now for the procurement and supply chain folks is actually give them some decision data that they can make confident decisions on going forward. I can help plant management with their capacity planning, and I can help cost manufacturing and value engineering throughout the process to identify opportunities to save costs. So Creo starts this analysis on a part-by-part basis, and then with our generate integration, Windchill can be the repository and the capture and the reporting engine for analytics, it really providing a gateway to innovation for aPriori's, using aPriori's interactive visualizations. So next I wanted to talk about some value stories. I'm building up to a video that I've got with Carrier, but first I wanted to review some value stories. Each one of these takes a different facet of value for the customer. And I would just say as a caveat, keep in mind that, much like, when we were at PTC, the customers aren't going to share all the value that they have publicly because, they might want to reveal, might not want to reveal something competitive. So these are pretty good metrics, but there's probably a lot more that's behind the scenes if you dig in a little bit. And of course, in some cases, the customer decided that we can't share their name publicly, but I still have some results. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Eaton. Their goal is to double the output of their MPI investment with a 0 lead time goal. And using aPriori to inform manufacturability, they found a 4-fold increase in heat rejected per kilogram, while also reducing weight by 80%. And then ultimately that resulted in an 87% reduction in design time for this part. So, you can see that in the picture before, I think about all of these things in balance and trying to hold them in balance. Another analogy that I like is as I'm designing and I'm trying to handle all these variables, I've got a marble in the middle of a plate and I'm trying to balance the plate and keep the marble right in the center, even though I'm going down a bouncy highway. So this, keeping everything in balance is what we do. And I think this example demonstrates that. The next one is Raphael. They wanted more attention to cost at design time. They were tired of taking cost out downstream, and they wanted to make sure that we could take cost out early. So using aPriori, Raphael was able to reduce the price of a part 50% by leveraging aPriori, just DFM, just doing design for manufacturability, handling manufacturing risk early on for both simple and complex designs. So that's 50% for one part. How many parts does a defense contractor have, or any of our major customers? This can be a pretty big impact. So and it can happen quick too. We've got one European customer that was able to identify value in the very first week. So we both work out of the box, and then we can tweak our software to make it more valuable and more personalized to that particular customer and those particular machines that the customer has. Here we identified 875,000 euros in savings over the lifetime of 8 parts by leveraging aPriori DFM to redesign the part. And we did this with a consulting workshop. We call it Applied Services, where we enabled design engineers to review design feedback and evaluate alternatives in the first 2 days. So this is value that we can get quite soon by leveraging aPriori. Finally, before our video, we have an aerospace company that started with a goal to reduce the cost of quality. They identified a $3 million savings over one part's lifetime. So how many parts? I mean, just think about that. That's one part. If I had 100,000 parts at a customer, that's a pretty big number. And you can argue, okay, well, you're not going to find that value on everything. But what if we found half of half? I mean, that's still a huge number of benefit that we can find at a customer. Even if we only got 1% of the parts of this 100,000, we're still talking about $3 billion. So, at this rate, I mean, this is a dramatic savings. We're talking about real meaningful impacts. And hopefully that gives you a sense for all the different facets that customers care about, where we can help find cash while delivering better design. So next, I wanted to share a video interview that I did with Tristan Abend a couple days ago. Tristan is leading Carrier's engineering productivity and throughput refinement operations for their product offering overall. So, one thing that's happened with Carrier over time, as they've grown and been successful, they've acquired more companies, companies in their space. So now they have, not just one HVAC design, they've got 4. Not just one chiller design, they've got 4. And all of these designs have things that are useful. So Tristan's really on a team that's looking at how do we simplify these overall designs and reduce complexity, while also handling our commitments to carbon. Thanks for joining us today, Tristan. Really excited to have you on with this. The first question that we have for you today is, what got you started with aPriori? What primary business objective were you trying to solve?
Yeah, good to be here with you, Joe. So primarily, like all businesses, there is never one primary objective that we have in introducing enterprise level software. When we first introduced this in 2019, aPriori was really intended to be a should cost solution to enable Carrier Global to negotiate from facts and to enable some level of feedback to our engineers on costs of their designs. Now, however, it's kind of morphed into something bigger. Now we are aiming to find the same cost savings as before, but move even further at looking at the complete value chain and what makes up that cost of our designs. And we are enabling this through the transformation of aPriori from not only a cost model solution, but into an enterprise level digital twin suite married with our partner PTC to enable automation on the Windchill level for our engineers.
So you mentioned Windchill. What other specific PTC and aPriori software are you using to solve your business problems?
Well, certainly Creo, is our primary 3D CAD software that our businesses are using. But beyond that, utilizing some Suma controls now inside of Windchill to help bring in supply chain data to help further create an ecosystem inside Windchill that really brings in should cost data as well as our supply chain data, and then finally our engineering data all into one place. So that way our engineers, supply chain procurement, as well as cost engineers have one home to go to.
Okay, just in broad strokes, can you describe what attracted you to aPriori, or what the competitive reasons were that you picked aPriori over other solutions?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If you look across the space, there's a lot of different should cost software out there in the world. What really differentiates aPriori for us is, number one, the partnership with PTC. For us, we don't see ourselves moving away from PTC, so we're looking to have an ecosystem of partners together. But to go further, specifically for aPriori, what it enables for us is the fact that aPriori is not a black box. We can actually go into it and create cost models that are truthfully valuable to not only us, but all the teams that utilize it. And then taking a step further, aPriori is going ahead and creating new solutions to problems that we didn't know we had. A good example of that is AP Generate, which actually automates the costing through Windchill, and then taking a step further and creating new metrics like sustainability, which enables us to see what the embodied carbon is of our designs before we've even put them out into the marketplace.
So I want to ask you about the value you've seen so far, but before we do that, can you talk a little bit about the design optimization process, or sort of the process from the beginning, through design, and then also the after release design optimization that you do with aPriori and PTC?
Yeah, starting from a design process, from a current state and evolving into the future state. Traditionally, our engineers build their designs in Creo, actually using the software packages inside of it to create not only sheet metal designs, but also taking it a bit further now with some of the injection molded designs. And quite honestly, they would release them out in the marketplace and get quoting. What aPriori is bringing now in, and how we're optimizing the design, is actually trying to further it with a digital twin. And now, utilizing aPriori, the designs are made in Creo with one step. They can use the plugin and go right from Creo into aPriori and be able to start working on actual cost models of their designs. What that enables is when they actually throw it through into Windchill, and then it actually gets checked into our system for an automated cost model. Now we get flagged by our team, who can actually work with the design teams right away in trying to refine that. It's an iterative process, and it should be. There's multiple things that are going into these designs, and it only works by enabling all these different solutions coming together in one seamless workflow. So once the actual design team and the cost model engineering team is happy with it, then it can be released to supply chain, who can use AP Analytics to build their own dashboards, and then use AP Workspace further to actually enable some level of pollination between the cost engineering team, management, and supply chain to put comments on those 3D CAD models.
So you've really been able to take what maybe used to be siloed across a couple departments, drag some of the traditionally downstream activities over to the left and process, and enable a collaborative team to work together during the release cycle to make sure that you've got an optimized design. That
Oh,
sounds pretty
100%.
exciting. Yeah. What kind of value prop have you seen? Can you share some stories or some numbers, as you can around around what Carrier's been able to get out of this increased collaboration?
Yeah, a great story that we like to talk about is one of the things that we've been working on with our CHVAC team. CHVAC, from a business point of view, it's complicated because we're talking about low volume, high mix. And generally speaking, these are designs that are coming at us that are being requested from our customers that quite honestly could be one-off. So because of that, we have to be very agile in how we do those designs and also be cognizant of the fact that sometimes there's different trade-offs than we would normally make on more established designs. That's what makes aPriori and the Windchill collaboration so much more powerful. A great thing that we've done with the CHVAC team down in Charlotte is that we've actually been able to help them and one of our sheet metal suppliers optimize their costs. We did this by actually having the team who had an engineered to order come on in, and they built new sheet metal brackets. Well, these sheet metal brackets are in a design we're talking maybe a couple hundred in a year. So because of this, what they did was they utilized aPriori and Windchill to actually create good designs that were actually costed up front, and we knew going in what to expect and how to go about it. But what we did further is work with our supplier and actually enabled them better batch sizes because of the low volume. We actually were able to optimize their batches in such a way that it lowered the cost even further. This led to annual savings in the millions of direct productivity for Carrier, further the partnership that we had with the sheet metal supplier, and actually can help further the partnership that we have both with that supplier, but also with the teams themselves going forward, even in cases in the future when we don't know what we're going to design yet.
Well, that's quite a story for collaboration, not just within your own company, but with suppliers too. I appreciate that. So what's next? Where do you see us going next with aPriori and PTC?
Well, in general, like all companies, two big challenges are coming up. Both sustainability and automation are some of the biggest challenges we see in the next 2 decades going into 2050. In particular, we've signed up as a company for net zero by 2050. This is a very ambitious goal for us, and we need partners like Windchill and aPriori to enable that. What we plan to do next is really further the automation and the collaboration that we've already established between Windchill and aPriori. But to do that, what we need to do is further the design proposition for even more design teams worldwide. We expect over the next few years to really try to enable in our design process metrics around sustainability and embodied carbon. So then that way, when these designs are being automated through both aPriori and Windchill, the teams know how to interpret these results, and we can further work with them to find new ways of the workflow that work for them, and rather than them fighting the workflow in the process, as you see in a lot of cases in the past.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tristan. Appreciate your time today, and thanks for all the great info and how Carrier is using PTC and aPriori to solve its business challenges. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to wrap up our conversation, Carrier is aiming to reduce its customers' carbon footprint, and in order to do that, they've got to reduce their own and their products with a goal of reducing more than 1 gigaton by 2030. Of course, Tristan talked about the 2050 goal that he's got out there too. With aPriori, we were able to create a embodied carbon metrics and cost model in 2 months. They looked at some other solutions for that, and one vendor quoted 18 months to come up with the same report that we did in a couple months. And then finally, just on sustainability metrics, they had a single plastic part where they found an opportunity to reduce cost, but more importantly, emissions through a material change with a savings of $60,000 and 10 tons of carbon just on one part. So, this is the kind of optimization that I talk about that, is pretty impactful for our customers. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of the kinds of things that we do. Like I said before, we help hold all of these different things in balance, along with other analysis that you could do as you move from design through review into release. We can hold all these different variables in balance, but importantly, what aPriori brings is looking at cost, carbon content, and sustainability and manufacturability risk as we go forward. We just had a number of PTC talks over the last couple of weeks with aPriori. You can go back and view them all. I just highly encourage you to do that. And with that, we want to move into Q&A. So what questions do we have?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joseph, for sharing a lot of interesting stuff here. So actually, the first question goes to Paul from PTC. So, Paul, we have heard a lot from aPriori here about, the way their solutions are driving carbon reduction during the product development. But what is it that PTC is doing to reduce the carbon footprint?
Yeah, thanks, Torbjörn. Great question. We've just heard from Joe about how our joint offering between aPriori and PTC helps our customers with their sustainability goals. But this question, I think, is particularly about what we're doing as a company, what PTC is doing to improve its position on sustainability and carbon debt reduction. And I think that question is partially answered by this slide. Now, firstly, what we did last year, we baselined our emissions as a company using the generally accepted sort of scope 1, 2, and 3 categories. And this, I think, is important for all of you that may be listening on the line in that, it's our sort of emissions that then show up in your scope 3 reports for, let's say, purchased goods and services, which is what you get from PTC as part of your subscription offering. Now, I would say that generally speaking, as a company and as a software company in particular, our emissions are relatively low compared to that in the manufacturing sector, in that we don't have factories. We are just people, we're office space, and whatever percentage we allocate for the server farms that we use as well. So we've got a reasonably good position there. We also signed up for the Science Based Targets Initiative. That's going to see PTC actively working to bring down our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions by something between 20 and 50%, depending on which emission class it is, and then be net zero by 2050. So important things that we're signed up to, which, again, a lot of you are also involved with. And to do that, we're looking at sort of the things like customer travel employee travel to customers. We're looking at the office space efficiency, and you can see we're leading with our headquarters in Boston, which has the LEED Platinum rating, as you can see on the slide. And all of that, of course, is alongside the work that we do with aPriori and other customers around, helping our customers with their carbon debt reduction. So a lot moving in this space for PTC. It's a really critical initiative. We have a team of people internally that focus on this every day of their working week. And I would like to think we're making good progress. So great question. Torbjörn, back to you.
Thank you, Paul, for a great overview of the PTC perspective on this. So over to the questions from you in the audience, and I had a few actually already. And one is actually, what is the best way to get started with the analysis with a customer's existing design process? Over to you, Joseph.
Yeah, so inside the process, we've got these different tools that I talked about. I think what you do is you start while you're designing a part. You can hit the button in Creo and go over and do the analysis and find the manufacturability risk right away. If you think about it, if I'm designing a part that has a problem to be manufactured in the manufacturing process, why would I go forward with any other analysis or any other, or continue with this part? So this manufacturability analysis is looking for, holes too close to the edge. Maybe a hole that's a drilled hole that has to be reamed instead of drilled with a single drill bit because it's just, an odd size. So those kinds of manufacturability items can be found early on, like at the very first time you start drawing CAD. And by eliminating, those manufacturability risks early on, you have a better optimized part throughout the rest of the process. And then you could go forward with FEA analysis and all the other things. And as you wrap up, you can then come back and look at cost and carbon content and make sure that you're hitting those goals as part of all of the requirements that you're dealing with for design. So really, you can use aPriori throughout the entire design process to make sure that you're keeping all of those variables in balance.
Great answer. So a little bit also, could you please, elaborate a little bit on, what are the top analysis aPriori can help with downstream in the life cycle process?
Yeah, so you know, I did mention it earlier a little bit before. It's really a couple different things. Make versus buy analysis, or should we now make this thing again because our suppliers are more expensive now? You know, making that decision early on, deciding where and what geography. There's a couple things that would go into that. If you think about reducing carbon, I might want to think about and plan for the logistics of what it would take to get my finished goods to my customers. So now I need to figure out better what geography I could build something in. Well, you know, what makes the most sense? Does it make more sense to build it in a high carbon area and then spend a lot of carbon to move it someplace, or should I build it in a low carbon area and sell it into that market in a low carbon area? So, you know, those are the kinds of things that we can balance just around a metric like carbon content. So it's where build. You know, I can look at optimization within our customer supply chain. The story that I like to talk about, we've got a customer that was looking at the total cycle time that it took to build a part, and they were finding 30 minutes on grinding out, you know, the little worms that are left after you weld something. 30 minutes on grinding out these welds, and they asked the supplier, you know, like, what are you doing with that? That's on the inside of the model. Or I'm sorry, it's on the inside of a casing. Like, we don't need those. Nobody ever sees those. And like, well, but the design model and the spec shows no, you know, no welding worms. You know, without having the ability to dig into the details, they never would have found that 30 minutes extra that the supplier was spending, you know, building these things out. So our customer was able to gain some pretty big savings just by finding that extra time that their suppliers were taking. So, you know, there's things like that you know, even without changing the CAD model and optimizing the CAD, that we can find throughout the manufacturing process to continue to tweak, you know, what it would take to build an item.
Thanks for the great answer. And also, I think, a question that is, of great interest, to many customers, of course. What is the typical time to value, and what are the sort of, things that, customers can actually, configure in the software? Do you have anything, you could elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so we ship with sort of a standard factory that is a base to set up. So this digital factory example I was talking about before. But what we really want to do, so that's usable right away. You know, we'll have all of the typical machines that you'd have on a shop floor, you know, whether it's a 5-axis mill, 3-axis mill, you know, cutting, lathing, you know, all of those different operations are included in these digital factories. So you can use it right away to get, you know, manufacturability risks, especially identified. But what we want to do to make it more personal to that customer or that supplier is actually get the specs off of the machines that they have on their shop floor and bring those specs into the software. So that takes a little bit of time. You know, if you want a great answer, you've got to spend a lot of time making the analysis tight. So, you know, most of our customers want to spend a little bit more time getting to that level of accuracy. So our typical deployment, I track this as part of my business. It's under 2 months. 1.6 months is my time to value metric that I track today. But as I mentioned in the slides earlier, we've had customers find value in the first week. And of course, you know, they find more accurate value downstream. So it's really, you know, it's really what level of fidelity answer do you want? And we can provide that right away. If you want accuracy, it will take a few weeks to get there.
Thanks, Joseph. And unfortunately, actually, time is running out. So many thanks, everyone, for joining this session here today. And of course, special thanks, to you, Joseph and Paul, for sharing a lot of, really interesting, insights in this very interesting topic. So with that, I hope to see you back after the summer break on the 6th of September, same time, for a session about PLM, ERP, and MES working together for optimal business impact. So with that, have a fantastic summer and nice weekend coming up here very soon. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.